welcome to Residing in North Idaho. We have a very special edition today. We've got all three of the boys here, and we're going to talk about crime and sports, youth sports particularly. I think those are good topics. Always good to have a plan. I did not originally have one. This was your idea to do this, and I was like, yeah, solid. We should talk about that. In the house, we've got Dave Fowler and Eric. Can I say your last name?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I think we're safe now.
Okay. Eric Boardman. All three of us are partners in this real estate venture, your North Idaho agent. So here we are.
And we're going to talk about bear meat.
And bear meat.
We all want to hear the fact that Eric shot a bear this year.
Yeah.
Listen,
we just lost how many viewers do you have? 10. We just lost 6 because we talked about killing a bear.
Stick around to the very end and you'll watch us eat some bear meat. That'll be very enticing. That's a good hook right there. We should keep that.
I've seen enough podcasts to know that you don't come on as a guest and not bring a gift.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Bear meat's solid. That is a very manly gift. I appreciate that. Bourbon comes in a close second, just FYI. And there we go. So Dave, this is great. Dave is literally no, it's fine. I'm just going to call you out on the air. Dave is literally doing work right now, which is normally a no-go, but when you're in the real estate business, you got to handle stuff.
Yeah, I explained this the other day to him because he got to come the other day and we wrote up first offer. And I had told him, I said, I would let him write up the offer if it wasn't like a SWAT call out, which is what it is because we had completely different plans. I didn't tell you anything. And the next thing you know, it was just, that's what happened. And that's the way this job goes. And that's what I love about it is because it's a complete disruption to everything that I'm doing normally. So
yeah.
And we got that offer accepted. Well,
that's it. Cause you
almost done here.
Cause you got it done quick. If you sit around and wait, especially in the summertime, bad day. Yeah. Hey, Eric, is this your first time on a podcast?
This is my first time
really?
on a podcast.
That's exciting, dude.
I know it.
I love it.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited. And you gave me the dirty mic.
I gave you the dirty mic. Is that why you're inching away from it at this point?
No, I'm strangely comfortable with
it.
Okay, you'll learn more when I talk about my history.
My old partner, Sam, has rubbed his scruffy beard on that many a time.
Yeah?
Yeah. You haven't met Sam yet.
No, otherwise I'd probably be closer to
Yeah,
Mike.
you would. He's a good one. He's a good one. So let's jump into so Eric is currently local law enforcement. Obviously, we won't mention the department name. Can we talk about crime a little bit? That's a big question that I know I get all the time. I'm sure Dave gets all the time. People moving here, especially from other states, don't quite understand how much safer it is here and how different it is from a lot of these other places. I had a client come recently and they were staying in a rental for a few nights over on North Government, downtown Coeur d'Alene. And they were like super nervous about parking their cars on the street. And I was like, I do it all the time. It's totally fine. They're like, no. And so the guy stayed up like all night. He kept getting up to check on his car. Turns out in his paranoia, he had left his keys sitting on his porch the whole night. And lo and behold, nothing happened.
Weird.
Isn't that crazy?
It is wild.
Yeah. So can you speak on that a little bit?
Yeah, I think it's something that if you live here for a while, you kind of take it for granted that you can leave your car unlocked. Obviously, you don't recommend that. I always recommend being a hard target and making a move on to something more difficult. But it was eye-opening to me. It was a month ago. I went to San Francisco. We went cage diving with great whites at the Farallon Islands.
Heck, you did this a month ago?
Yeah, it was awesome. I
haven't heard this.
It was cool.
That was for your 40th, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was my 40th birthday.
40 years old.
Yep. After the roast you gave me at my party, I really appreciate that, by the way. It was great. But going down there, people leaving signs on their car saying, hey, my car's unlocked. Please don't break out my windows, and broken glass all over the streets. Just a tough place to live. And then you compare that to here where literally we go through our crime trends. We analyze that twice a month, and we're going through and looking for auto burgs or retail thefts, and then really targeting those particular criminal trends and, really splicing hairs, because we're down 65% in part 1 crimes, which is, major crimes, which for this area and this closer proximity to Spokane is pretty amazing. So in retrospect, if we have, let's say, 4 auto burglaries in a week, that's kind of a crime wave here. Pretty lucky that way, but that's also, speaks to the aggressiveness with which we pursue other criminal activities.
Is that, oh, sorry, go ahead, Dave.
No, I was going to say when I was with the department, that was one of the things that really caught me off guard, is that when we had a spur of burglaries, auto burgs, it was usually one group of kids. It was usually 4 or 5 guys, and you'd get all these reports. So all of a sudden you get this mass influx on social media and Ring and everything else where people are saying it's really unsafe up here. And really it's just the work of just a few people. which the department is excellent at focusing in on and finding those people, and the crime stops almost immediately. So when you get those little rushes, it usually is just a couple people. It's not like it's an unsafe area and these are happening all the time. It's usually an isolated incident or isolated people for sure.
Yeah. And that's what's cool about it too. Even if you don't directly go out and interdict that particular activity, right? Like let's say you don't catch that group of juveniles, but then all of a sudden it stops. Then we even go back further and say, okay, who did we take into custody in the last week? Like, why did this stop? Because a lot of times they get picked up for another unrelated crime, whether it be a retail theft, shoplifting type of deal, or they get picked up for dope most often. I still think drugs are at the crux of the majority of property crime. But it's interesting going to backtrack that. And then you can go kind of reverse investigate and go through the jail and all that. And
yeah,
man, a little bit, even talking about the people that get on and say, oh, the crime's coming, Coeur d'Alene's not what it once was. For every one of those, there's 10 other citizens here that are like, hey, I saw something really suspicious, right? Like, you guys should check this out. I think we have an idea what group this is, or there's somebody I'm familiar with. Somebody has Ring doorbell footage. It's really pretty cool. Like, the partnering with the community here is still very much, it's a big city with a small town mentality, and we don't have Crime Check. For those that aren't familiar with Crime Check, Spokane, everything that you report that's property crime oriented goes to a system where you don't actually talk to a human. And it just gets into this funnel, and it doesn't get looked at by a detective for, a month or 2 months or whatever. And by then you have no chance of catching that individual.
Right.
So,
well, we both came, obviously if you haven't followed us before, we both came from California. And the areas that I worked when I was, obviously I didn't do law enforcement there, but the areas that I worked, there wasn't a stark difference in the communities that I worked as a fire captain down there. It was very, very similar in terms of crime, the clientele, everything else. You had minor differences, but a lot of it was the same. And what you just talked about, and the fact that there's such a difference between right here and Spokane, really blows my mind.
Yeah,
because when
35
you go to,
miles away, right?
Yeah. When you go to Spokane, it's like a different country. Yeah. And I'm not here to speak politics on anything else, but you can look at exactly what's going on, and there's a difference over here compared to across the border. And we've talked about this before.
You can feel it when you cross state line. I swear, there's like a palpable shift when you cross. You're like, oh, all right,
yeah, and my heart skips a little beat, and I'm like, damn it.
And props to the law enforcement up here, because I was brand new, and granted, I'm a little older. So starting out older, people didn't realize, especially when I was arresting somebody, that this guy's a new guy. And I would ask them all the time, "We're not answering that phone. Get out of here." Jim.
He wants to.
Okay. No, I don't want to.
That's Jim.
But one of the biggest things is that I would arrest criminals that had no clue that I'd been on the department for 2 months. And I would say, "Hey, you know our reputation, right?" And I'd play off of it, and they turn around and be like, "I know, I shouldn't have brought drugs into Coeur d'Alene. I shouldn't have done these things." And that is incredible.
That's cool.
Because it is, like you said, 35 miles away, but yet even criminals know what happens when you bring stuff that you shouldn't into Idaho. Right. I mean, all the way down to marijuana. You can go off and say that's fine, but when you bring it over here, there's a huge difference in how you're treated.
You're going to get dealt with.
Yes. Yeah. And there's been some artistic liberties taken with the quote, but I had a group, let's say it's from a Western Oregon city that's kind of gone downhill in the last decade. No, it was Portland.
That's
man. Yeah.
They got, we busted him with some felony drugs here. Right. And the guy's in the back of the car, and he's mad. He goes, "Man, I knew it. They told me." He's like, "Go to Coeur d'Alene on vacation, you leave on probation." I was like, if that's making it to the West Coast, I'm a fan. We're doing our job. We're doing it right. So
I love that law enforcement here still gives a damn, because these other states, I mean, they've beat it out of the cops. It's like, it's not worth it. The DA's office doesn't prosecute. Right. Like, so you bust your ass to get this case, and you get a good hook, and you're like, "Here we go, DA." And they're like, "Nah, decline to prosecute." You're like, fuck.
Well, dude, look at it in Washington, bro. Like, now they've almost entirely decriminalized simple possession in Washington state of both meth and fentanyl, which are the ones that I really.
Fentanyl too?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
so
dude.
The thing is, in order to charge them criminally, they need to have 3 offenses, right? So essentially, your first one, here's your civil citation to go try to get some, I know, right?
Get that beautiful
radio. Dirty mic, right?
Get in there.
All right. So, but that first one, you get hooked with fentanyl the first time. Essentially, here's your civil citation. And it's like a forwarding for treatment, which I can go off on that. I appreciate that and want that. I want them to go back to being good, productive members of society. But From law enforcement, you get a first one, then you get a second one. It's not even a misdemeanor until the third one, but it has to occur in the same jurisdiction because there's no way to track it. So as a cop, you guys were both there. Are you going to risk your ass to go after this guy for something that isn't criminal? Are you going to put hands on him and dig in his pockets and subject yourself to liability and all the use of force stuff? Nah, nobody's going to do that. Right. So that's why there's that significant, I sometimes joke, I say Idaho is like one of the last sanctuaries of sanity, right?
Because I think there's a reality to that, right?
Man, they let cops do their thing.
Yeah.
They let them be aggressive because it goes back to, it's hard to commit crimes like the property crimes we're talking about. It's hard to commit crimes when you're looking over your shoulder all the time. And I being a cop in Idaho is different because I like being a shark. Like, it's hard to commit crime when you're looking over your shoulder.
Yeah. You know what? This is a great sales pitch for law enforcement in Idaho. If you're working out of state somewhere and you are sick of that crap, come to Idaho. Yeah. Get yourself a good job.
Yeah, we get a lot
Fight
that
crime.
way. Yeah, we get a lot that way. But dude, just what you're saying, even laterals from other states, we spend a lot of time reminding them that, hey man, people up here don't hate you.
Yeah.
And I think you could probably speak to that better than
100%.
most. Man, I feel bad, from some of those places where you don't get the same community support that you do here. We have a really pretty badass community that really looks after us. And we've been in some situations, and for that, every one person that's out there harping against police, man, there's 10 or 20 other ones in this community that have our back.
It's like a healing process to come up here after working in another state. I spent a lot of time on the riot line, 10 years of doing that. And I can personally attest to BLM and Antifa are some of the shittiest people on earth. The way they treat law enforcement, even black law enforcement officers, they were the worst to them. So, coming from that world where you're just like constantly getting berated and verbally assaulted and everything, to here, now, obviously I didn't work here as a cop, but just being in the community and knowing that I can tell people that I did that, it's like night and day difference. Yeah, it's extremely therapeutic to come up here. And I think that's a common element that a lot of guys and gals that are retiring in other states, like they're looking for that. And they come up here and they ask, and you're like, no, like, trust me, you come up here and you will literally heal yourself from that stress.
You see a big difference between when people, you still arrest people up here and they're going to fight it. But it seems like there's more of the aggression is towards they disagree with the law as opposed to they don't like you. Right. I've had some people that are extremely frustrated and, borderline non-compliant. And the whole time they're telling me this isn't you, but this is bullshit. I shouldn't be arrested for that. Okay.
Yeah.
And I can deal with that. But the fact that there's a healthy respect for law enforcement up here is something that I feel like if we lose that, then it's going to change drastically up here.
Right.
And that's one of the reasons why I'm a huge advocate. I don't work in law enforcement anymore, but I'm a huge advocate for watching these guys and gals get paid better.
Yes.
Because I don't want to lose good cops, good people that actually want to fight crime and want to change and keep things the way that it is and change, any negative stigma or anything else about law enforcement. You get good law enforcement officers. They know how to enforce the law. They know how to do it correctly. They're not a liability on the department. And honestly, that costs money. You find places that pay, and you find the good officers coming to those places.
And then you invest in them, and then you have to keep them.
Yep.
Right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like once you invest in that and they start to understand the nuances of Idaho, and with what you're saying, if we lose that in Idaho, I can guarantee you one thing, there will be a lot of other states in a lot worse shape than us.
For
first.
Sure.
We'll be one of the last holdouts that's still, I call it criminalizing criminal activity because so many states are decriminalizing criminal activity, right? But that's another conversation. I know there's a stigma sometimes with Idaho for people that have either moved here or moving up here. Some Idahoans will be like, oh, they're Californians, right? Man, I love having conversations with those folks that just moved here because that apathy you're talking about as a cop coming from California, people that live there have the same thing.
Yep.
Where when you call the police, they don't come, right? Because there's certain crimes they just aren't going to respond to anymore. And I love reminding them, again, we don't have crime check, right? Like, hit us up. I trust your baseline for what your neighborhood should look like. So if it falls outside of your baseline, trust your instinct and let us know. I'll gladly come roll by and go jam somebody up for, littering or breaking bottles on the end because that's going to keep them from burging a house.
Yeah.
Half those activities are just like pushing the envelope, right? Like poking, seeing how much they can get away with. So I'm a big fan of that. I remind my guys all the time, if you stop one of those, and it's the old, if you stop a soccer mom or a good law abiding citizen, man, put them at ease, make them laugh,
Mhm.
welcome to the area, and tell them, hey, you guys see something funky, let us know. But that's truly collaborating with the local area, and because it's everybody's job. It's not just police's
Right.
job to keep it safe. It's everybody's.
Yeah, I get this question a lot too. Hey, like, how's this particular area? Like, hey, this neighborhood in Post Falls, is this sketchy? And I'm like, obviously I don't work here, so I'm not in the nitty gritty of it, but just driving around, I'm like, I'm not seeing the indicators of like a terrible neighborhood anywhere. I mean, are there pockets here that you can speak to, or, I mean, does that even exist? I mean, you guys working in the area,
Relatively, there's areas that are better than others, but
Yeah.
I've explained it to people like this. There's not an area, when I think of the bad areas, especially in Coeur d'Alene, granted, there's other areas that I'm not as familiar with, but there's not a neighborhood in North Idaho yet that I wouldn't feel comfortable walking down a street in the middle of the night unarmed.
Right.
There's just not that. I don't see that violent crime. I don't see people, doing the things that they're doing in other states. I don't feel uncomfortable walking around anywhere down here. And I would walk with my kids in the middle of the night, and I'm going to get stopped because it looks weird. There's going to be somebody stopping, going, asking what I'm doing. But I don't think so.
Even downtown, I mean, where you would think, and traditionally in a city, there's that alley or whatever downtown. It's like, I made that in the homeless video that I made, and I walked through all the alleys, and I'm like, yeah, I got some shit for that, believe it or not, from the left side of the world. Very insensitive, apparently, to talk about homelessness. But walking through those alleys, it's like there's nobody here. There's no homeless people hanging out. I freaking love that. So same thing. I'd go through in the middle of the night, literally. I don't care. Any time of day, you can walk through there. You'd be fine.
No, and what you guys said is 100% right. I think it's relative, right? Depending on where you come from before, and you guys come from a different place. And prior to this, I was in the military. I got bounced all over. I actually moved here from West Palm Beach area, Boynton Beach, Florida. And there's some pockets out there. Florida's weird. It'll be like really nice neighborhood, gated community, and then right next to like a rough area. And there's just little pockets right next to each other. But we get, to us, it's a lot of time, right? Like, it's timing. We'll get an area that's like spikes, maybe with auto burgs or some thefts or some persons crimes and stuff like that. But just like we talked about with this area, usually we tie that to a problem house. Then we have methods for intervening and trying to thwart that particular activity.
Right.
Encourage them to move west.
Do you get like a lot of out of state people committing these crimes, like people coming over from Washington? Is that pretty common?
Yeah, for sure. Especially summertime.
Yeah.
In summertime, downtown Coeur d'Alene is, it's gorgeous. The downtown area is awesome. And you get a lot of activity down there. And, people of all walks of life like to come over and enjoy the downtown area. And some would like to engage in other activities that probably would go unnoticed over there, but they certainly aren't unnoticed here. So we get some of that pass-through stuff. And then I-90, I mean, hope we're good talking about this, but that's designated a high-intensity drug trafficking area. It's been designated by the DEA. I-90 is a corridor, pipelines up through California and goes through Washington. And so we do get trafficking across I-90. So we'll get some pass-through criminal activities, but our guys like finding that stuff. So
those are always fun, dude.
Oh yeah, it's awesome.
Getting a big load. Yeah.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yep.
I can't, it's hard for me to speak in the downtown because I'm never up past 8:30 at night. So I don't know what goes on down there. That's my bedtime,
Yeah. You're in there cold plunging while people are still up partying downtown at 4:30 in the morning.
That. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm definitely an early riser. So the trafficking thing's interesting because that's like a crime that doesn't necessarily affect people living here, but it's a nasty crime. I mean, like transporting that stuff over wherever they're going, Montana or beyond. So it warms my heart to know that there are people out there working the freeways and hitting those load cars. That's good stuff.
Right, man, especially when you get to talking about fentanyl. You guys are getting me going down a rabbit hole talking about that.
All right.
But it's
I'm gonna run to the restroom real quick because you guys can't give me water when we're starting this.
Oh yeah, no, it's okay.
Keep going.
Here, I've got a Gatorade bottle right here.
Oh my gosh.
Nobody will know.
No, but
Tell me about fentanyl, baby.
man, when you have this little strip of Idaho, you look at that panhandle, right?
That's
that
easy
one
drive, right?
Yeah, it's just such a small section. And I mean, ISP are they're beasts when it comes to that stuff, and really looking at some of that. Some of those traffickers that are moving from western part of Washington, then all the way over to the Midwest. It only takes a couple of times responding to calls where 16-year-olds OD'd and died from making that first mistake. I mean, I know what I was like as a kid, and it legitimately, I coach football and I say that, there's winning and there's learning. Making mistakes and failing is a function of growth.
Mm.
I'm a firm believer in that. But when I go talk to these kids and teach classes about, modern drug trends, this mistake can kill you. And it's just that, tiny little pill, and it looks so much different than meth. And man, if we have an opportunity to wipe one of those, off the board or take a couple thousand pills off, we'll take that. That's why we like to push it. And our laws are just a little more conducive to holding people accountable for it than, Washington and even Montana can be a little tough, which is a little wild.
That is wild.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm definitely thankful I grew up when I did, because I didn't have those things to worry about. Right.
Same.
So it's scary for kids growing up now. And it's definitely a conversation to have with the kids.
Right.
Like I've had those conversations with my kids from a young age, and they're super dorky now and square bears. And I'm like, that's perfect. Like,
yeah,
I don't worry about them as much with trying that kind of stuff.
Man, I went and taught, they invited me over to Genesis Prep. So I actually taught that to their high school, and then talked to the middle school kids too. And we got to talking about pills a little bit. And, as I tell them, look, man, make mistakes. That's how you're going to grow and learn. You just can't make that one.
Yeah.
And then you start to break down what those pills look like and how that whole industry kind of came to be, and how when you send those pills off to a lab, each one can be between, the last DEA info was like 0.2 to 0.6 milligrams of fentanyl. For the average person that has no opiate tolerance, 0.2 can be lethal, and they look identical. I mean, these are legitimate clandestine white lab coat, pill pressed pills. And you can't tell the difference between the 0.2 and the 0.6. So you can see why those overdose rates since 2017 have absolutely just skyrocketed.
Are you guys using Narcan a lot?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And that's even here.
It's interesting. I have never used it. We weren't even allowed to carry it. And then it started to become a thing. I think they can carry it now. CHP. I think so. I don't know. Somebody will correct me on that, I'm sure. But yeah, I was like, one, it was stupid that they wouldn't let us carry it, but
right. Especially for yourself,
just to see that trend that's changed so fast.
Right.
It's like, damn, that's some scary stuff.
There's almost an acceptance that it's going to be used now. I mean, Narcan, I mean, you can
100%.
call numbers, you can order Narcan, you can get it for free. There's government programs, everything else, which, I mean, lends its own issues, because it's just like going over to Washington or Oregon. I'm not sure where they're doing it, and I don't want to misquote it, but I know there's some places that are doing like clean needle drops and stuff where you can go pick up stuff so that you can legally use illegal drugs, and you can use things that are harmful, but they want you to stay healthy while you do it. And that, to me, I don't subscribe to that. And it falls apart the same line that, like, you're going to give people Narcan, you're going to give something to fix it and get them out of it, and they're going to go do it again. And that it starts to become just like the homeless population saying, hey, here's all these resources, you don't need anything else. And, everybody wants to argue and say, well, they need something. What they need is they actually need help that's going to get them on their feet and do something about it for themselves.
Yeah.
We're handing out fish and not fishing poles.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with Narcan.
Analogy.
So,
man, what's wild is when we don't even know the long-term ramifications of fentanyl use yet. We don't understand the recidivism rate, because it's only been around, in this type of use.
What word did you just say?
Recidivism.
Are you Googling that?
Yeah, I'm going to Google that up.
Really smart of me. But we don't even understand the long-term ramifications. It's wild when I talk to people that I've worked with within my work capacity.
Fuck, he's smart.
I'm not, dude.
The tendency of a convicted criminal to reoffend, recidivism.
This is crazy.
It's like, your job.
Every once in a while.
Wow.
I looked that up before I got here. I was like, what words?
Honestly, I swear I've never heard that word in my life.
I haven't either. I'm surprised I spelled it correctly.
I heard it from somebody else.
Recidivism. I'm going to try. That's my goal this week, is to use that in a sentence correctly.
Yeah. Nice. Good luck. I think this podcast is the only chance you're going to have, so you better use it in the next 5 minutes.
You got time, dude. But talking to some of the folks that got in and were heavy fentanyl users and addicts, as part of my, I've done just like every other cop, I've worked in a lot of different fields, right? So when we did street crimes and talking to people that were heavy fentanyl addicts and what their path to recoveries looked like, you truly start to develop an appreciation for how it changes your brain chemistry. I mean, it's a different level of opiate addiction. It wrecks and goes in there. I always think about like your pleasure receptors, and most drugs mimic dopamine, right? And it goes in, and I was thinking about it like a firework, and I'm no biologist, all right? And recidivism is as smart as I get, but it goes in and just burns out those pleasure receptors. So when they get right and they finally find that thing, and a lot of times it's kids, they run into consequences, right? Consequences. And then they decide to get right for their kids. But the biological ramifications of trying to relearn and retrain yourself what is supposed to make you happy, because your normal dopamine doesn't work anymore. So watching your kids score a touchdown, watching your kid be really successful in school, watching them graduate, watching them get married, it doesn't have that same effect. And it's sad. When you look at and then you truly start to feel for some of the addicts. Now, they all made a choice. I'm 100% with you, but there has to be consequences on the other side. So why, as a society, are we accepting this new normal that it's just everywhere?
Yeah.
When I taught the middle school, this little girl is 7th grade, asked a very honest question. She stands up and she said, Sergeant Boardman, if you guys know, because I was explaining the labs in Mexico and how they come up and all that, I think it's important. We got to empower them with knowledge now. Got to treat them like young adults. So if you know where they are, why don't you just go stop it?
Good question.
That's a great question. Why don't we? I said, because at the end of the day, somebody somewhere has decided that your life is worth a certain sum of money. Sorry.
Dang.
Right? Like, what else do you say? But somebody truly has decided that our kids' lives, because we've all gone to ODs of kids that are under 18. I hate to say that we've had them locally, right? Somebody's decided that it's worth it. You know what I mean? It's all about money. It's crazy.
Yeah.
That's why I'm super passionate about fentanyl stuff, man.
Is it worse than heroin?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. It's 50 times the potency. And the issue with fentanyl, man, is it's a tasteless and odorless powder, right? That can be put into any form. The only reason it's they're called Mexi 30s or blues, M30 on one side, and they're like counterfeit Perk 30 pills from back in the day, is because that's what the labs have decided to press them in. So that's why crystal meth's become such a huge thing. They use clandestine labs, so it's legitimate, like lab quality. What's crazy is they can change that delivery mechanism anytime they want, which has already happened. So we think that it's just pills, but it's not, right? So they've actually changed them. There's stuff on the street now called, the street name is Skittles or Tarts. They've made them multicolored.
Oh boy.
Multicolored. I got pictures on.
I know. Yeah, I've had them too.
And I've found those locally. So I ask you this, like, what do you think their target demographic is?
Right. Kids.
Kids. The younger demographic.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
Or is fentanyl usually just ingested, or is it smoked and injected or anything like that?
All the above.
All of it?
I think smoke's probably the most common that I've seen.
Yep. You'll find, gosh, I probably have it in my bag in the car, but you'll find the
fentanyl.
Yeah.
Let's try something.
Maybe not that.
See what happens.
All right. Well, I'm going to be doing this full time tomorrow if this goes live. So, no, but it's, you'll find foilies, it's called, Chasing the Dragon. You'll find foilies with burn marks. And you scorch the pill across the top, and then you inhale it with a tubular device. Like, it's called a tutor, usually a straw or a hollowed out pin.
Okay.
You'll inhale it off the top of that foilie, and that's probably the most common method, but they call that Chasing the Dragon, which is
similar to heroin, smoking heroin, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's wild when you break it down with users, like called Chasing the Dragon, because that first high you get is complete and total euphoria, because it's just rattling around that pleasure receptor.
And then you'll never get it again.
That's why, crazy thing, dude. Like, if we get like 2 or 3 ODs in a weekend, guess who's the most
bad batch?
No, who's the most popular dealer in town? The dude that sold to them, because the closest you can get to dying is the closest you get to the dragon.
That is sad.
Isn't that wild? Like, that's what we're talking about when you're talking about like altering brain chemistry. Like,
right.
It changes the way that people, just it already totally realigns your priorities. But
there's a difference too with heroin, cocaine, things like that. Those are natural substances. They're pulled from natural substances. Not to say that they're good for you,
right?
But they're completely different than a synthetic.
It's a great point.
And so, when you look at the heroin addicts and everything else, there is a much different effect on the body on how it's altering brain chemistry and whether or not it is. When you start going into methamphetamine and fentanyl and other sort of substances that have been drawn up in a lab, they have effects on your brain that that change it forever. They change it forever. So, that's a huge thing too, is like you're talking about that brain altering chemistry. Yeah. That's what's happening in labs. And it's cheaper and easier for them to do.
It's a synthetic opiate, and it's been around since the 70s, right? Like, China started producing this powder in the 70s. It was used for like long-term life care, like hospice care, pain management. It was great. It's easier to cultivate. It's less expensive than is heroin, and it's way more potent per small quantity, dude. Because then you get into like carfentanil. Carfentanil is a tranquilizer or pain. It's pain stuff for like zoo animals. So it's way more potent than fentanyl is. So we've run into powdered fentanyl a couple times here locally too. Extremely rare. Now people are using fentanyl in combination with xylazine, which makes Narcan completely ineffective. It's supposed to.
Oh my goodness.
It's wild. It's just totally different level of addiction. But just to your point, man, the human body was probably never meant to ingest those anyways. No. But when you start talking about synthetic and way more potent in small quantities, man, it gets wild.
Now I'm curious, how bad, so obviously there's some of that here, but like Spokane, Portland, Seattle, like what those guys are dealing with. I haven't talked to, I got some buddies that work for Spokane PD. I'm gonna have to ask them, but like, what level of crap are they dealing with the fentanyl stuff? Like how often are they Narcaning people? It's probably constant.
Or ODs in general. Yeah. I mean, such a common occurrence, right? When this thing first kicked off, I mean, I've only been in law enforcement since 2014. I was in the Navy before that. So I kind of watched this trend, and we're seeing these broken pills because people were actually having the powder shipped over in the dark web, which was a Department of Defense contract, which is a whole different thing. But people are getting it shipped to their house, like legitimately. And man, they're buying their own pill press, buying their own combining agents, and they're making their own crappy pills. So what we were finding is like these crumbled crappy pills, and ODs started going up a lot. Yeah, but then they start kicking off, and then it generates, you get the attention. They're making so much money. TCOs or transnational criminal organizations, cartels start looking into that because they're just making so much freaking money. But when it all really got started, man, a hardened user was 3 to 5 pills a day. 3 to 5 pills a day, and they were going for like $10 to $12 a pill. Ooh. Now you're looking at people, we've run into them, one of the trippers from Washington to Montana. She was using 30 pills a day and using powder.
Like holy crap.
Yes, and you can get it in Spokane if you're buying in quantity for like between $1 and $2 a pill. Wow. So it's crazy to look at like the business side of that, right? Trying to understand supply and demand. And so how much must supply be up for that to be a thing?
Right.
Not political, but truly how much is coming across.
Dang, dude.
It's wild.
That is wild. I guess I'm glad we're over here and we don't deal with that much.
No.
I definitely don't see it in my life. No. And I'm glad you guys are out there doing your thing, so I don't have to. Can we talk about homeless a little bit? Because that's a common question.
Yeah.
My homeless video, check it out on there. It's gotten a lot of views. Yeah. So I made that bench video was a short from the full video. That video gets a lot of views every day because I think it's a common question. I titled it like, does Idaho have a homeless crisis? That was a little clickbaity. I understand that. I kind of just showed downtown and like, they're not there.
No.
Why? Like, I talked about resources a little bit. I told them that the cops here just throw them in the back of the car and throw them over the border. I'm just kidding. They don't do that. What's the deal?
Some of them on a first name basis with, I'll tell you that much. Downtown Coeur d'Alene, the homeless population we generally know on a first name basis because there aren't that many.
Yeah.
And it's funny when you talk to them, say, heck no, I'm not going to Spokane. It sucks over there. Everybody steals your stuff. Everybody's using dope. So we get like the good homeless. Like we get the ones that aren't up to no good and they know the rules. If you guys want to live that lifestyle, man, do you, but you're not going to invade somebody else's privacy. You're not going to steal anything and you're not going to be openly using the middle of the street. They're just
I think those are some solid rules, right?
Yeah,
and if they obey that, I like, thinking 20 years ago in California, like I was in Chico and, there were homeless people in town, but they weren't the screaming lunatics that we have today. And it's like you can tolerate them.
Yeah. If that's your lifestyle, bro, you do you.
There's a lot of things up here too that affect that. I mean, climate is one of them. You know what I mean? If anybody's homeless up here, they are
committed.
They're committed because you can go down to the beach. You can go down to San Diego. You can go to a place like that and you get free showers. You can fish off the pier. I mean,
I brought that up in my video and I'm going to disagree with you a little bit on that. And I'm going to use Spokane as the example because we have the same climate.
Yep.
And, we're only 35 miles away and they are completely overrun with homeless, like it's a zombie apocalypse. Yeah. So
there's a lot of resources too. And one of the things that we don't have over there.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So over here, we don't, our closest warming shelter is in Post Falls.
Yep. Post Falls warming shelter.
When it gets below, you tell people like Spokane has those things. They will keep you warm over there. There's options for people over there.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that people shouldn't have options, but when there are options, people are going to use those things. If it's free, we don't have that over here. I mean, you're in your car.
Yeah.
That's the warmest you're going to get.
I have heard that the religious organizations over here that do provide services make sure that they have to be clean to use those. I don't know if that's true or not, but
yeah, if they're,
and obviously a lot of them don't want to do that. So
right, that's the hard part, and that is you can't openly use if you're staying in one of those facilities, and even if you're overly intoxicated, you kind of get run out pretty quick. And that coupled with the fact that if there's somebody new in town, like if it's a new homeless group that kind of migrated over from Spokane, you've probably been contacted by law enforcement
quite a few times.
Yeah, 5-6 times during the week, just to identify you, just because we like to know. Used to ride around with me, man. Every time we didn't recognize somebody, it was, hey, what's up? Jump out and chat them up and kind of let them know. It gives us the opportunity to let them know what our standards are, what our citizens expect, and kind of how we roll around here.
Well, even panhandling. I mean, how many times does 911 get called for somebody that's panhandling? That happened quite a bit. Right. When I was working over there, people called just because somebody's panhandling. It's not illegal. You can do it. But when I show up, I mean, there was times when I sat there and I talked to them and they asked me, am I detained? I said, you're not detained, but I can talk to you. They said, well, I don't want to talk to you. I said, well, and I've said it to people before. I've said, how many people do you think are going to give you money right now when I'm standing here talking to you? I have no desire to leave. And I can stand here and know you're not detained. You're free to leave at any time you want. But I don't think anybody's going to pull up and hand you money while you're sitting here talking to law enforcement.
Nicely done, dude. Great angle.
So creative policing.
Yeah, that is creative policing. I'm retired now, so I can say this, but there have been multiple times when I have driven someone out of my jurisdiction and dropped them off at the next sport. You wink once if you've done that. Yeah, no, the problem. I'm not saying you guys do that here, but it was effective.
And when that's no longer effective, there comes a point where you just hit them straight up. I know exactly what you're doing. I know what you're dealing. And I promise you this, if you don't stop doing what you're doing, we're probably going to drive a piece of armor through your front door. So
and that has happened.
That's a good deterrent.
Well, right. And they know that we'll back that up.
Yeah. But even before that, the thing that you guys do is the prevention thing. Like the fact that you said that people don't want to have to look over their shoulder. If you just make contact with somebody, if you're just making consistent contact with somebody, they get so frustrated. Yeah. They know they're up to no good. Paranoid. Even if you're not finding something on them at that time, or you don't have a reason to necessarily detain them. But hey, you know what? There's not a lot of, I think somebody said it in PD. There's not a lot that goes on that's good between 12 and 3 in the morning. Right. There's not a lot. I don't go for walks at 12 to 3 in the morning. And if I do, I fully expect for somebody from PD to stop off and say, hey, what are you doing?
Oh, you go jump in the lake by yourself between those hours. It's a little
Let's
weird.
do it.
No, and that's part of our training regiment. I mean, you rode in the car with me, right? Like, and that was just part of what we trained and what we taught.
Yeah.
Just know who's around your city.
That's
an expectation of our citizens that we serve, right? It's not out there that we're out hassling or harassing everybody. We just like to know who's around the city. It's still a big city with a small town mentality. So I'm super appreciative hearing stories from folks that were law enforcement elsewhere, man.
Yeah.
We're lucky to live where we do.
Yeah. Right.
That's for sure.
I mean, it doesn't go unnoticed. I think the community notices and appreciates it.
Oh yeah. You can see by how many folks want to move here, dude. It's nice not having to worry about your stuff.
Right.
Or your kids going to school.
So we just need to make sure it stays the same way.
Right.
Can we switch gears and talk about some sports? We were going to talk about youth sports. And this is a world I don't know anything about. My kids have never done a normal sport. Like they've done jujitsu and I guess gymnastics. Oh, my daughter's doing volleyball now, so I got that. But prior to that, like baseball, football, basketball, I know nothing about them. Yeah,
man, that was one of those. When we moved here from Florida, my son was 3 or 4 years old. So that was big for us, keeping, especially now. He's 13 now, and it just keeps him out of trouble.
Yeah.
I'm convinced I have to keep him in sports. But I was really impressed with the Parks and Recs sports that were available, and it's per city. So Coeur d'Alene has it, Rathdrum has it, Post Falls has it, and it's soccer, basketball, flag football. There's something year round. I mean, that's something I know. Dropping the newsletter, we talked about adding that, what season it is, and where to sign up, and all of that stuff. But
and on top of that, there's also a ton of club sports too. They go throughout all of North Idaho. So
yep, you talked about it on your last podcast. But when we moved out here, we got Trent in it with Derek and Iron Lion, and he did that and competed there for like a year and a half, 2 years, and it's just a different mentality. Idaho's in a lot of ways, it's such a throwback. When we put Trent into pre-K. It's funny. They still see each other on the football field on opposite sides, but met a buddy who's real big kid in pre-K, man, they used to fight and wrestle and just get after each other. 4 years old and they're getting after it. And lady that was teaching, she's like, listen, I have 4 boys. They aren't affecting any of the other students. They got to get it out somehow. And I was like, that's such a refreshing concept, right? Like I want, little boys got to go burn some of that stuff out.
Yeah.
So 100%. I've actually I just coached my last youth football game a couple weeks ago. I'd done that since 4th grade. So it's about 5 years. And Coeur d'Alene junior tackle, they start that in 3rd grade. Really good program. Everybody's heads up certified. So it's all the new rugby tackling. Back in the day, I don't know if you guys played football.
Negative.
Man,
I did.
Gosh, dude, what they used to tell you, stick your face mask right through their chest, like, lead with your head and just smashing into people. And we probably got 6 concussions a week. Now it's all rugby style tackling, tackle around the waist, use centrifugal force to bring them down. And
that's smart.
Because my wife was real nervous. She's ER nurse in Valley, and my son's small, and was real nervous about head injuries and stuff. So it was cool to go watch and see how well trained a lot of those guys are. So football is one I've been around, and the flag football stuff. You talked about private, and they've got a whole bunch of other flag football leagues that are outside of Parks and Rec, and that's a big thing if you're moving up here and you're bringing kids.
Oh yeah,
right. Like you want to know what sort of activities they can get into, and a lot of people are moving from bigger cities where there's a lot more. Man, there's a lot. Seems to be way too much baseball.
The investment
is that a problem?
Just too many fields, bro. Like, can we get a football field? We've got 19 different baseball complexes.
Well, that's the thing.
Wrong with baseball.
There's a huge investment in kids up here. There's a lot of programs that you can get people on, and that's something that's awesome. Is you get a lot of parents that are still coaching and doing those things, because where I came from, there was very minimal activity, and there wasn't the money where I came from. And they seem like they've reinvested a lot up here. And then you have private organizations like Real Life. Yeah. They have all the sports fields and 208 volleyball and all that stuff. They even have adult sports. I couldn't believe that there was like adult flag football leagues.
Yeah.
When I came up here, that was amazing.
That's crazy.
So, for youth, it's just a playground. There's so many things. And then you incorporate hockey.
Yes.
Which there's a ton of hockey up here, which I never knew.
Well, Tyler Johnson, the dude he grew up in Spokane. He played for the Lightning.
Yep.
He actually sponsored the hockey league down there on Celtice.
We met him.
Yeah.
I have a picture with him. I met him with the Stanley Cup.
Yes. That's so cool.
But
he supplemented a whole bunch of those expenses. If you were like, I think you guys, Trent did that in 3rd or 4th grade. He played hockey down there.
Nice.
Because it's an expensive sport.
Yeah.
It's a lot of travel. But man, it was cool to see him go out there and rip around on skates.
That's awesome.
So you just got to get in the know. That's what's cool about you guys. That's part of the reason I kind of wanted to roll with this group. You guys do so much community engagement stuff, and you get with other groups, and it's not just about selling houses, right? Or buying houses. Get them engaged with those groups, have the contacts available. Be like, this is who you talk to get into this, bro.
Yeah.
Whether it's jits, even if it's lacrosse or rugby, which aren't huge here, they got them in Spokane Valley, which is, 15-minute drive away. It's pretty cool. So lots of sports.
Yeah. I think, you touched on the community thing, and like, we run in different circles a little bit, but I think that's the common thread here, is that we all, it's the intrinsic value for me. Like, I'm always going to be doing that. I'm sure you guys are the same. It's, building that community, finding people that are like-minded, and like connecting people is so rewarding to me. Just that, just like from coaching jiu-jitsu, I absolutely love it for that. I don't get paid to do it. It's inconvenient sometimes, and sometimes I don't want to go, but like when I show up and I've got these guys that are new to the area and they don't have any connections, and we bring them into the fold, and the guys I've got there that have been there for 2 years, like, they're welcoming, and next thing we know, we're in the cold plunge together, and they're like, what the fuck just happened?
Well, let's be honest. When you have I consider myself to be successful at what I do, but if you're successful at what you do up in this area and you're not putting back into the community in some way, then all you're doing is taking. There's only so much take you can do. And you see that happen in a lot of communities when people put back into it, whether it's through hosting events or whether it's through giving back to kids programs or coaching or volunteering at jiu-jitsu, whatever it might be. I think that's one of the things that people have to continue to realize up here is when you come in, when you can be successful, when you're taken care of, you need to be able to put back into the community. It can't just be coming to North Idaho and taking everything that it has. It has to be contributing to the community in some way.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree with you, man. And I think when I came here, everybody always asked that question when you were a cop. How many times you get asked that? Why do you want to be a cop? Right?
Oh, yeah.
Especially in the academy.
I want to
That's
help
always-
people.
Yes. And that's the
That's
most
answer,
common.
right?
Man, I never want. My mom was a cop growing up. I surprised a lot of people when I became a cop because I was such a pain in the ass when I was younger. But
Can I pause for a second? When you told me that your mom got shot as a cop, like
Yeah.
it blew my mind. She's a badass, dude.
yeah, you wouldn't know that.
No,
Mom
when I
was a
first
cop?
met her,
Yeah,
and she got shot, dude.
Yeah.
Wait, really?
Oh, that's
Oh,
my
wow.
bad.
Your
That's
mom
that's my spouse right there.
Oh.
Actually, we're going to go do that interview for All-State football. I was telling you about.
tonight?
Yeah, my son made All-State this year.
How you doing on
Seriously.
time?
Oh, we're good.
Okay.
We're good.
Hey, real quick, I got to circle back around. So nobody can probably see that, but
No.
I'll show you that to you. So that's Tyler Johnson when he came down, when they won. They came down to the PD. We got the Stanley Cup there as coach. I can't remember his name. And then we got Wayne Gretzky that showed up as well.
Wayne. Look at
that was-
dude. That's a cool picture.
He's a cool guy.
super down to earth.
Were you there the
man.
day they came?
No, I didn't get to meet him, but everybody's talking about him. He's
He's-
super down to earth.
It looks like Eric would actually be taller than him too.
He might be.
Yeah.
If I had skates,
That's
on, for
cool.
sure.
Yeah.
And when we talk about command presence, I'll say Wayne Gretzky was super cool to meet. I've met him a couple times now. And a great guy that gives back to the community. He is very much locally invested up here, but I laughed because when he came in that night, I think he was drinking a little bit out of the Stanley
Uh-oh.
Cup, but
Attaboy.
I remember I was still brand new and he walked past a bunch of people and came right up to me and said, "Hey, I'm Wayne." And I'm like, okay,
Yeah, buddy.
That's
this guy's a
cool.
legend,
Recognize.
but just a super cool dude.
Super down to earth. Imagine what it takes to be that way when you have so many athletes that just have their little group that follows them and barely engages with anybody.
Yep.
That's what's up.
Super cool
legit.
guys. That was a good experience. Sorry, going back to your son.
No, and I just remember getting asked that question about, why are you police officer? And honestly, that was one cool thing about the military, right? I lived a lot of different places. I grew up in Spokane, lived a lot of different places, and finally felt like I lived enough to know where I wanted to live. So when we came out here to visit my mom after she retired, man, the community was awesome, right? It's like, okay, this is a place where I could take an active role in keeping the community the way that it is now.
Yeah.
And when people are looking and making that same decision on whether or not they're going to leave where they are and uproot, that's a challenging one. I think we take it for granted in the military because we get bounced around a lot. But
Right.
man, being able to come up here and recognize what that community is, I guess what we'd all ask is when you come up here, man, contribute, right? You're bringing your family here for a reason. You want them to grow up in this community where it's safe, contribute.
Yep.
Come back out, take an active role in the community. Idaho's a throwback. So throw it back. Get back to knowing your neighbors, have parties in your neighborhood, all that stuff.
Right.
Take that kid that maybe doesn't have time with your kids to sport, stuff like that.
Since
I'm
we're
all
talking about giving back and being part of the community. So if you've been following us, we did last night, we did a first responders, the three of us put together and our wives, and we put together a first responders appreciation event at Coeur d'Alene on Ice. So everybody from that was a first responder in our community, we invited them and their families and beyond to come down and just enjoy a free night. We had pizza from New York Pizza Department there. We had Cassie Allen from Anchored Coffee, Allie Krupp from 32 Below. Peak Fitness ended up donating to it as well. Ivan and Raina Pinchuk from Lone Depot. I want to name them all. And then
Really
Title
cool
One was
camera
there
place.
too.
That
What?
That camera place.
And the camera, yes. On tap,
Yes.
on tap, photos on tap. There we go.
Yeah.
But anyways, I just got a text right now on Facebook, and they asked, I said, "Hi there. We have another night. It's December 12th, and it's going to be starting at 5 p.m. Badge or ID entry, or we got to know that you work for a department up here or somewhere." And somebody just texted me, and they said, "Hey there, does the first responders ice skating event include 911 dispatchers too?" Absolutely.
Yes.
100%.
And
For sure.
I wrote back, I said, absolutely. I said, you keep all the first responders safe, and they couldn't do what they do without you. And that's huge. I mean, really, it's just about the community that puts back day in and day out. I know doing that job for 17 years in public safety was hard on my family, and dispatchers are absolutely part of that. Anybody that works at the jail, anything else, we want you to be able to come out and enjoy a night. That's a big deal. So yes, if you're part of any first responder organization and you do anything like that, we'd love to see you.
Man, that was so cool last night. There was a bunch of people, folks that moved here from, similar to my circumstances from different parts like Florida or California. And a bunch of those kids I've never been ice skating before.
That family from Florida was cool, man.
Yeah,
I chatted with them for a bit. Yeah, they were cool.
That was awesome. But, some of those kids never been ice skating. Welcome to North Idaho.
Yeah.
Here we go, right?
Did you skate last night?
I had skates on.
I thought you just wore those to be taller than me.
That was.
I heard he was behind me skating and it was like a freight train, just like boom, boom, boom. I was like, oh my god, if I fall, I'm dead.
Yes, blunt and straight.
Yeah, dude. I could see that.
Not a lot of finesse. All right, not a lot of that.
I don't believe that.
So real quick, just so you have the opportunity to kind of brag about this, tell me about that last game.
Oh, the last football.
Because you sent me a video and it's pretty cool. I don't know if you've seen it.
Oh, I don't think so.
Oh yeah.
Oh, dude, it was badass. Like I said, I've been coaching with some friends of mine since this team since the 5th grade, and you were talking about coaching jits, bro. Like watching that light bulb go off for people, where all of a sudden their confidence starts to change and all that.
Yeah,
you're dealing with adults, which is cool, and I'm sure maybe some teenagers, but man, having kids since they were 5th grade to 8th grade and watch these little chest high little dudes all of a sudden come back and they start to build this confidence and develop coping mechanisms against adversities and all that stuff. I love that stuff coming to fruition. We had our last game was a championship game. We'd gone undefeated and going against our rivals, who's just a hell of a group of boys as well. And we always end up in this titanic clash with them. And true to form, we end up down by 14 in the 3rd, came back, tied it up, going to overtime, stopped them. So we end up 3rd and goal to go. And I should mention, my son is 5'1" and 100 pounds.
He's a little guy.
Yeah, he's 5'1", 100 pounds, 13. There's a kid on their team that's about 6'3", $190.
Whoa.
There's some dudes. Like, they're at that weird age, man, where some are just popping. I'm still waiting for mine. You know what I mean? Still waiting for mine. So,
keep eating.
He's just been pushing and he works out like crazy and he stays the course. And I keep talking to him, man, like, just keep building your skill set. Anyway, so it's 3rd and 18, goal to go. We got backed up and he takes a little out route, breaks about 5 tackles, dives over the pylon, scores the game winner, walk off game winner, gets carried off field, tears streaming down his face. I'm that dad.
Dude.
Joe's sick. It was one of those parenting experiences, you just never forget. And
Yeah.
all those times you think about, like, when your kid says, Dad, you want to go throw the football? Can we go throw the football? Can we go do this together? And, there's some days, man, especially in our current job, where you're like, oh, I'm exhausted. I just don't want to.
Right.
I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Man, never say no. Especially never say no. Get out there and, all that stuff is like the next morning. I woke up, I think 4:35 in the morning, just wide awake, just thinking about it. And it's all over. And that's another chapter. And I pass him on to, high school and other coaches and all that. But not just my son. It was a really cool experience, but all those kids when they were down. I think I've talked about that with you guys in the office, bro, where it's like, man, we're down 14. Now what? As a coach, I'm glad. If I could script this is exactly how I'd script it, because it's easy to be a good teammate and a good friend and a good husband and a good brother, right? When we're up by 40 points, that's easy. Who are you now? That's who I want to see right now, right? Like, which one of you is going to be resilient and dig deep and then bring the other guys up? And man, it was so awesome. I got a text from one of the players I've been coaching since 5th grade, and he's just my dude. He's just one of my guys. And, he wrote this, he wrote an actual card, wrote it out, sent me a thing. And he's like, man, you hit it best. He's like, when 5th grade, you had to spend half your time controlling my emotions. Right before that last game, I told him, I said, I don't have to do that anymore. You got it. And you not only control yours, you control the other guys on the team, dude. It's been one of the joys of my life, helping you guys grow up and turn into little dudes. I love it.
That's so cool.
That's awesome.
I know you guys get me all passionate about it, bro. I love coaching.
It was a cool video. I'll show you.
Well, hearing you
really
describe
neat.
it, that was freaking.
That was awesome.
You can see that
dude.
Eric jump in. He got like 2 inches of vertical.
Negative, dude. I was at least like 14, 16
You bent your
inches,
knees.
bro. Yeah,
You bent your
that's true.
knees.
Yeah, it wasn't very
That was
impressive.
super cool.
I don't remember anything, bro. It was just
No, and that's neat that the community still rallies around things like that. It's nice that you still have the competitiveness. People are not afraid to be competitive in the sports, and at the same time, you have a huge support network from the community up here for those things. And it is
high
fun.
school games, bro. You go, they're huge.
Right.
And at our game, 8th grade, I'll bet there were 750, 800
Isn't
people
that
there.
crazy?
It was awesome. It's just
Bear meat.
Yeah, I think you nailed it when you said it's a throwback up here.
yeah,
It feels like the times that we all grew up,
right.
the way it should be, and
Yes.
you can't find that anymore in a
No.
lot of places, but you can find it here.
Where it's okay to win and it's okay to lose, right? Like just like that. It's okay to win and it's okay to lose still.
That's some bear
I'm
meat.
having a little trouble getting it. There we go.
There
I'll
you
get
go.
I get the weird
Oh
looking one.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's
that
fine.
boy.
It's like a cigar of meat.
Makes your hand look small.
Where'd
babe.
you
my
shoot
God.
this?
Actually,
That's good.
yeah, I got this one in Usk,
At a zoo?
Washington.
I-90. Us.
Yes.
No guy that lives up that way.
Yeah. And one of my good buddies took me out. Man, I got so lucky.
Does Idaho bear taste better because it's more free, or is it?
No, I don't think so. I think there's something very satisfying about smashing
delicious.
a Washington bear.
Why do people? And there's nothing other than bear meat in here.
Bear meat, jalapeno, and cheddar, man. Eggers does it right. Eggers in Spokane, up on the South Hill where I grew up.
Because I've heard people say, "Oh, bear meat's gross." I've had it in sausage before. I think it was mixed with pork though, and that was good too.
This is
Wow,
great.
This is delicious.
Tasty. So I'll bring more into the office.
How's it sound with us chewing on the microphones? Is that enjoyable?
That sound pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay with it.
Oh, my phone's over there. Never mind. I was going to give a shout out to the guy that made us the flag. Well, I just picked up a flag for our office, made in America. Pretty excited about it. He's got a business here in Coeur d'Alene. It's Pacific Coast Flags. I'll throw the link in the notes there. So if you're looking for a flag that's actually made in America and not China, I know where to get them. And flagpoles too. That's going to be hanging on our office tomorrow.
Yeah.
There's the jalapeno.
You got a good chunk?
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, I will say, since it's the first time that we have the three of us together on the air, this has been something that I've thought about for a long time, and it started a lot when you and I did a deal together.
I remember that. Yeah.
So we did a deal together. You were representing a new officer or a new deputy for Kootenai County. I was representing the seller, who is a Coeur d'Alene officer, and the deal went really, really well.
Mm-hmm.
And that isn't always the case in real estate. In fact, typically when I call somebody, it's a huge delay. I'm waiting for things to get back. Sometimes I get paperwork that's incorrect, not in compliance. There's a lot of stuff that goes on with that. But I remember we did that transaction and I'm like, man, this was really smooth. Every time I asked for something, it was done right away. Yeah. We ran into a couple hiccups. We worked through it. And I told him, I was like, man, that was a really good transaction.
Enjoyable. Right?
And then to find out that he's former law enforcement, and just having that attention to detail and how he takes care of his clients, that was nice, because I've always said it's really hard for you to leave this job, because this job does have SWAT call outs. Mm-hmm. It has that day where, you can be on vacation, somebody calls you, they have to make an offer. And if you don't have somebody that can back you up, that has the ability to problem solve, negotiate, do the job correctly, have the attention to detail, the moral compass, and be able to take care of your clients like you would, then you find yourself on vacation, pulling out your computer. There's all these memes online of real estate agents on the beach. How do you know it's a real estate agent? They got a computer, they're on their 100%. Phone. And that was one of those things. For a long time, I had talked with Seth and been like, man, it'd be cool if you ever came over to Keller Williams. Never too direct on what I wanted to do, but things have worked out to where now, Seth and Kristen came over to work with Renee and I. And then, obviously I've been talking to you about, do you want to dabble in this? Is something that you want to try out and do? Right. And, real estate is one of those things where if you have somebody that can mentor you, it speeds up the process really fast. There's a lot of things to learn. I was able to become successful at real estate because I had a great mentor, and he taught me a ton of stuff. And now he's the broker. He's the go-to. Super knowledgeable, great guy, and helped push me to where I was able to do the job correctly and be successful at it, not make the common mistakes that happen for years and years with agents. Everybody thinks it's like selling sunset. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted you to come on, because one, you're not good looking. No, okay. And we have Seth. So we already have a good looking guy.
I'm the good looking one in the group. I don't know. I don't know what's going on here.
Low standard.
But the fact that this is a job where you really can screw up. It's not uncommon for an agent to write a check for $10,000 because they screwed up. They left something out of a contract. Their clients didn't agree to it. They're pissed. And to save a deal, they got to give up a ton of money. And, this job is one of those where you have to be willing to do it when the work comes.
Right.
And, dude, you've always been that guy. It's so funny when we work together. I would laugh. I'm like, man, he's like, go, go, go. My wife's like, you're go, go, go.
Yeah.
Like, you don't stop. But
you don't, dude. Endless motor.
I'm really excited to have you working with us, because I think that you're that type of person to where both of you, I feel comfortable passing off a client, especially a law enforcement client or somebody else, to one of you, and know that they're going to have, when they're going to run into an issue, there's not going to be a blockade where somebody goes, man, yeah, sorry, we got to pull out. Like, you have the ability to problem solve. You have the ability to make good decisions. All we got to do is teach you how to do the job. And I think that, you're going to be awesome at it. But people and making sure.
I'm pretty stoked. I think I've solved the team issue about who's, because somebody will be like, whose team is it? And so I'm going to tell them that it's Dave's team. He's going to tell him that it's your team, and then you're going to tell him that's my team. So we'll just switch it up constantly.
That's fine.
And
don't take credit yourself.
It will just confuse everyone.
Is it like my wife handles the kids? Like if they do something really bad, they're my kids, right? But if they do something awesome, they're obviously her kids. Is it like that? So if it goes really bad, it's obviously my team. I'm the FNG. You're a new guy everywhere you go. But truly, guys, I wouldn't have even entertained this. Like, law enforcement's a little funky, right? We've talked about this before, how it kind of wraps you up. And there's a lot of people out there that are in it that think the industry itself kind of makes you believe that you can't do anything else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Very common.
Where they just think that's their only skill set. And man, talking to you two, I know that's not the truth, right? But it's cool to see that in action. And I think if we didn't have this team and like the collective knowledge and the camaraderie and stuff, because truly law enforcement and fire and military all has that. Dude, I don't know if it would have been hard for me to even entertain the idea of looking at something else. So I think if it weren't for the group, I don't know if I'd be here, but I do appreciate that. And I'll definitely be picking your brain.
Take out the trash next time.
Get yelled at for not taking
he left the entire trash full.
Guy.
I'm like, the first day.
It's hard.
Last guy takes out the trash.
I feel him because you got the firefighter side and you guys are very organized.
Right. And I want to clear that up right now.
And we are not.
Yeah, that was the starkest difference between being a fireman and a cop. What firemen take care of their state. They clean up. They know that they got to clean their toilets, everything else. Cops, man, I told you I saw people build pyramids of trash.
That is
because they don't want to take out the trash can.
It's graveyards is leaving it for day shift. Day shift's leaving it for swing shifts. And it just the cycle continues.
Yeah, it's because you guys live there.
Yeah.
All right. Oh. You got to clean up after your Xbox tournament, dude. Like you guys live there. And it's a little different, bro. It's a little different.
Technically, you're the highest ranking member of the team. So, I mean, maybe we need to go with that.
Is that just? Yeah.
But then I'm the oldest. So that's why we have the rotation, I think.
That's good. See, I'm the new guy. I'm the bottom of the totem pole, no matter which way you cut it.
I love it.
But you also outrank me. So, I mean, yeah.
That's funny.
Well, I'll see how long that lasts.
We take out the trash where I'm from. So.
All right. All right.
Anyways.
Lesson learned.
Let's call it, boys. It's been an hour. That was really fun. That went by quick.
Yeah.
Yep.
Dave closed 3 deals on the
two deals.
Right, good job.
I will say though, real quick, if you are looking into North Idaho, one of the biggest things that we're passionate about is making sure that we help get you connected with the community. Real estate gets a bad rap because it seems like it's always just people trying to sell you a house or try to get you into a place and make a buck. This is how we take care of our families. So support us because we'd like to be the ones to be able to represent you. But most importantly, if you're looking into this community, if you're looking into North Idaho, if you're looking in, wherever it is around us, we'd love to help get you connected, whether it's with, what sports programs are available, what the hospitals are like, the conditions of the job market, areas, whatever that is. Finding a good church. The biggest thing that we want is we want people to come to this community that are already coming here that will put back into the community, and we want to get you connected. And at the same time, this is something you'll probably hear in the future with me, is that I also want to really focus on locals. This is a community that is already a vacation destination, and it's pushed really hard to get to that point. But I think we're forgetting about a lot of the local people up here. And, I really want to encourage people that are local as well. We want to make sure that we're maintaining the right, we want property values to be good. We want the community to be safe, to be clean. Coeur d'Alene's changing, whether you like it or not. And, but we want to make sure that we're putting back into the community, that we're investing in that. And we definitely want people to move here that are going to do the same. But if we can answer any questions for you, please reach out to any of us, follow, like, subscribe. This guy's got an awesome YouTube channel. You'll see us on there pretty soon. And we're just going to unleash Eric because we're all excited to hear this guy talk.
He's going to be great on video.
Super intelligent.
Oh, gosh.
He's got a face for radio.
Yeah, I definitely do. I definitely do have a face for radio. But that does bring up a good point. If you guys have any more direct questions about stuff in the community, man, drop it in a comment.
Yeah.
Right? A positive comment.
Yeah. No, you can throw the negative ones in too.
I'm down. Let's do negative ones.
Too. I started posting them on social media. So if you throw a negative comment, it's going to go up and people
might get famous.
Yeah, you might get famous.
Let's go.
But truly, you guys got direct questions about the community or programs. I know we kept it kind of broad. Let us know.
Yeah, perfect. All right. Thank you. Catch you next time.